As a commercial dock and lift service in Minnesota, we're required by the Minnesota DNR to take aquatic invasive species training as a lake service provider. We work with lake homeowners on a daily basis. Everybody is concerned about the spread of invasive species, and we're all working to prevent it. One of the things we do to help prevent the spread of invasive species is every time we move from one body of water to the other, we do a full decontamination of our barge, which includes hot water pressure washing of the entire boat. As a lake service provider and dock service, we are on the front lines, and every spring and fall in the removal and install season, we're always on the lookout for new invasive species. When we find something, we report it to the local authorities and they handle it from there. One of the services we offer is transporting used equipment from one body of water to the other. When that happens, equipment is required to sit out of the water dry for 21 days before it can re-enter another body of water. So if you're selling any used equipment or purchasing any, it would be wise to contact your local service provider to make sure that you're following the required steps. One other item that often gets overlooked is ourselves and our waders. These are in the water and can be contaminated as well, so we have to make sure we clean our waders and boots off between bodies of water.
So people are very well aware and are thinking about their boats. But a lot of people aren't thinking about their equipment, their life jackets, their tubes that they're bringing up, and their water shoes and swim trunks that they're bringing in. And those are some things that we need to focus on. And that's what the message we're trying to promote today, are some of those gaps and areas that we're not really thinking about. Most people, when they hear about decontamination stations, they're thinking about that it takes 10, 15, 20 minutes. Really, for the time it takes you to wash your car in a car wash, that's how long it takes to decontaminate your boat from zebra mussels. If you want to learn more about how to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species like zebra mussels, go to our website at MississippiHeadwaters.org and look under the Civic Engagement tab under Education, and you can see all those videos on how to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species. We're seeing about 95% compliance of people obeying the AIS laws. So if you see a neighbor or you see a friend doing something, it's okay to start a conversation, because many people, they want to do the right thing. They want to protect Minnesota's economy, and they want to protect our precious lakes. If you have a problem or concern on your lake and you want to talk to somebody about it, the best people to contact would be either your local county or your local soil and water conservation district. You can talk to them and they can give you the information you need to protect your lake.
One of our main priorities here in Cass County is we run an inspector program. So one of the main things that I do is I go out and check with the inspectors, see if they need anything, see what they're seeing out there on the ground. They're kind of the hands-on for us. I'm also checking lakes that they don't necessarily get to. One of the biggest things with that is we want to check lakes that maybe no one sees, because what if something's there and nobody's seen it for a while? So I'll go and check some of those lakes. The inspectors really like to keep me informed on what's out there, so I like to keep them educated on what they're seeing, even if it's native or non-native plants, just so they can see the difference. Eurasian milfoil is a big one. Just teach them the difference between northern milfoil and Eurasian milfoil. Be able to teach them to the boaters as well. If you are a lake owner and are looking or have found something suspicious and would like to turn it in, please contact Levi Bergstrom here at Cass County. I will help you out, and we can find out what it is and if it needs attention. There was a boater going into Long Lake. My inspector found a zebra mussel on a weed attached to the trailer, and he stopped him, asked him where he came from. He came from Hand Lake, and we went back to Hand with the sheriff's county dive team, and we found the zebra mussels right away and were able to get it on the infested waters list. Now people can take precautions so they don't transport any more zebra mussels from that lake. Yeah, people are doing a great job pulling plugs and actually removing vegetation off of trailers. I think we're really doing a great job doing that. But one of the big things I believe that people kind of overlook are when they're pulling their boats out or their lifts out for the season. That's one of the main things we can really focus on to see if there are invasives in there, because they've had all summer to grow. They're at a bigger size, easier to see. So if they just take a quick look as they're pulling them out, maybe, or if they're moving them from one place to, to another, they can take a quick look and be able to find it. It's really easier this time of year to do that. Decontamination stations can be difficult to find. One of the main places to find them is on the DNR website. They have a decontamination map. Otherwise, if you can't find it on the DNR map, there's links on the county websites to maps on our particular AIS website on our different pages, and normally we spell out each location. In Cass County, we have a link that spells out each location and the time. We also have crow wings on there as well, so that they know if they're close to a crow wing one, they can quickly get over there and get deconned if they need to. So in Cass County, we currently inspect 54 accesses. Of those accesses, we have, I believe it is 7 infested waters, and we like to keep it at 7 and try not to have any more. Leech Lake is, I would say, the main infestation for zebra mussels that we kind of man as much as possible, trying to keep those from spreading through the county. A lot of people know of Cass and Winnie with the zebra mussels, also with the starry stonewort. Leech has Eurasian milfoil. We're just trying to minimize any of the impacts to the other non-infested lakes as best as we can. Well, Cass County has over 150 lakes, and we're roughly just under probably 7% infested, which is about what the state average is right now. We're trying to minimize that as much as possible with the inspector program we have now and hitting as many accesses as we can. So one thing we've done in Cass County is we've implemented the Resort Ambassador program, and we've basically given them the power to be able to protect their resource with doing inspections and handing out education, materials, things like that, so they can actually protect the resource that they have there at their resort. One thing we would like every boater or lakeshore owner to be able to do is to have the power to be able to feel like they can do something and protect their resource that they have at the lake by either showing another boater that maybe doesn't know what to do, be able to clean their boat, drain their boat, and use whatever resource they have at hand to clean off or keep that resource safe for years to come. A couple things to know about decontamination is that it's all about the temperature of the water. So if you want to decon your boat at home, you would have to have at least 120 degrees for 2 minutes on every part of your boat, systematically working down your boat, or 140 degrees for 10 seconds will kill zebra mussels. So if you really have no other choice but to decontaminate your boat at home, make sure it's either 140 degrees for 10 seconds or 120 degrees for 2 minutes, and you'd be able to kill the zebra mussels on your boat. One of the main things we get with the bait is that you have to throw out your bait. You don't necessarily have to throw it out and get rid of the bait that you spent a lot of money on. You just have to bring water with you and leave it in your vehicle, or leave it in a cooler in your vehicle. One of the best things we found is if you freeze a gallon of water beforehand, leave it in your vehicle, by the time you get back you have nice cold water to dump the old water out of your bait and dump the new water into it. And it saves your bait, and it actually, a lot of times they live longer because of it, because you're replenishing them with nice cold water.
One of my main focuses this year with Crow Wing County was that we took our inspection season in-house this year. So we hired all of our inspectors, and for peak season we had 50 inspectors. So we did all the training, the hiring, and whatnot. My job is to coordinate inspectors to certain accesses throughout the county. We have 43 accesses that we cover throughout the county. We have over 500 lakes and rivers in our county, so there's a lot of water out there. We have zebra mussels and Eurasian water milfoil, but there's also a lot of problems and a lot of concern with other invasive species invading our county. So in Crow Wing County, we have 500 lakes. Only 5% of those lakes are infested, and the battle is still on. There's a lot of complex invasive species out there that we do not have in our county currently, so the fight is never ending, and we can still have hope to do the right thing. To find a local decontamination station within Crow Wing County, you could call the Crow Wing County Decon hotline, which is 1218-824-1055, and it'll bring you to local decontamination stations where you can get a decon on your boat from traveling to infested water bodies. If you're pulling out a dock in your county, the following steps that you should probably take are to pull it out and let it dry for at least 21 days and go to a decontamination station so you can really kill any kind of invasive species on that dock. If you're buying a dock and lift, please have that conversation with your neighbor, seeing what lake it was in and if it was an infested lake. If it was, please take it out for 21 days so it can dry, or go to a decontamination station so you take the proper precautions and to fight this battle of aquatic invasive species. If you are interested in performing your own decontamination at your home and your water allows you to have temperatures up to that high, you can start with 100-degree temperature on your motor for 1 to 2 minutes, and then you can move up to 120 into the corridors, into live wells, ballast tanks. Ballast tanks take a little longer. You would want to start with that first and leave that water in there for 5 minutes. Live wells and other compartments you would want to leave for 1 minute at 120. And then for the outside of the boat, if there's any attached zebra mussels or aquatic vegetation, you'd want to go 1 to 2 minutes on 140. So one of my inspectors came up to me and told me about the situation where a guy didn't want to dump his bait away after he was using the lake. And the inspector went through his training and what he was supposed to say to them. And then it occurred to that boater that, you know what, I'm just going to leave this bait with you, and then when somebody else comes and wants to go on the lake, then they can have some free bait and it's used. It's a win-win.
Back in 2014, the state decided to give $10 million to counties to deal with AIS, to deal with aquatic invasive species. So that money is split up amongst 83 counties in the state. There are 4 counties that get no money because they don't have any public accesses, and the money is based on how many public accesses you have in your county, and then the number of parking spaces at those public accesses. $10 million is split up between 83 counties, and the counties, it's up to each county to decide how they want to use their share of the money. And I am kind of a technical advisor for the counties from the DNR, so I answer their questions, I point them in the right direction, we do workshops for them, we try and get counties coming together to have conversations about what's working in one county to make sure all the other counties know that something like that is working. If something's not working, let's make sure everybody else knows about that. The counties are trying to figure out what's going to work within their own county. It depends on how much money they're getting. A lot of the counties up here in northern Minnesota in the Lakes region, they're getting a fair amount of money, anywhere from $300,000 to $700,000 a year. And so some of them are able to hire an aquatic invasive species coordinator who coordinates large watercraft inspection programs where they're hiring watercraft inspectors to be at the public accesses. It's an opportunity to educate the public, boaters going in and out of the lake, making sure their equipment's clean. Some of the counties don't get a lot of money, but they're trying to do some public awareness campaigns, some communication stuff, whether it's through radio or television, newspapers, putting AIS information into property tax statements to let folks know about this issue and what you need to do to be a good citizen and not spread this stuff around. What we're finding is that a lot of watercraft inspection programs have sprung up around the state because of this money. So the DNR only puts out about 100 watercraft inspectors every year. The counties are putting out about 900. So there's over 1,000 inspectors around the state now. Last year they did almost 500,000 inspections, which was actually the most inspections any state has done. We're usually kind of in the running against Colorado, and we beat Colorado this year. So counties go through the same training that the DNR inspectors go through. but the counties are kind of independent and they do the same stuff that the DNR does because there are certain things that every inspector has to do. And they also do surveys with all the boaters, and the counties use the same surveys that the DNR does. So all that data comes to one spot, which is nice. So we can understand what's going on in counties, what's going on within the DNR. Well, each county has someone that they have designated as the lead person within that county to deal with the AIS prevention aid that comes in. Generally, it's the county boards that have to approve how that money gets spent. But sometimes in a county will decide, you know what, maybe the Soil and Water Conservation District is the best entity within our county to use this money and make sure it's used properly. Maybe the Environmental Services Department is part of the county, maybe the Parks Department. If you want to find out what's going on with your county, find out who that lead person is in your county that is in charge of the AIS prevention aid that's coming in. And to make that easier, on the DNR website, we have set up, we've got the AIS leads in each county with their phone numbers, their emails, and if you get onto the DNR website and go into the aquatic invasive species part, you can find a list of contacts. And so each contact is there, and every couple of months we update it because people are moving around. But we want to make sure that it's available for counties to have conversations with each other, but it's also available for folks who live within those counties who want to know who they should talk to. We put out a template to give to counties to fill out, to try and capture some of the quantitative results of what they're doing with their money. And because each year the counties are required to submit some kind of a report to the DNR. We had 39 counties submit the template to us at the end of last year, so a little less than half of the counties. So we're talking about maybe $5 million out of the 10 million that went out. And out of those 39 counties, almost 1,000 jobs were created. Counties have started grant programs, and just in those 39 counties, about $700,000 in grants were given out by those counties. Also, they were able to leverage another $800,000. So through other grants that they got, or contributions by townships, or contributions by lake associations, they were able to turn that $5 million into almost $6 million. They've trained local law enforcement, so local law enforcement is knowledgeable about AIS laws. 36,000 residents and visitors were reached at AIS education events. In-school programs, 145 in-school programs that reached 23,000 students. So good things are happening. We're seeing success. Where we used to see people driving around with plugs in their boats, we've got laws now that say you can't do that. 97% of the people that show up at a public access where there's an inspector, they're doing everything they're supposed to do. The plug is pulled, there's no aquatic vegetation hanging on the boat, and there's no standing water in the boat. We've made some great strides in getting people educated, especially when it comes to boats. Some of the other things we're still trying to figure out: movement of docks and lifts. When you move a dock or a boat lift from one lake into another lake, we've actually got a new law. It's been around for a few years now, but a lot of people don't know about it, is that it has to stay out of the water for 21 days. We're just learning about aquatic plants and aquariums and how much those are contributing. People dumping their goldfish into a local lake or river. Schools having pet crayfish that they then release into their lake or river, which might be a rusty crayfish, which isn't invasive. So we're just kind of trying to target some of these different pathways, because it's not just boats. If you sell a used dock or boat lift to someone who lives on a different lake, there's a law that says that that dock or boat lift must stay out of the water for 21 days minimum. And that's to let things dry, because we're talking about aquatic invasive species. They need water to survive. A lot of the counties are using their money to stay ahead of the game. They're trying to monitor lakes and rivers where AIS has not been found yet, and making sure that it doesn't arrive there. Because what we've found is that if you do eventually find something in your lake or river, you have a much better chance of doing something about it. You have options if you can find it early on. If you live on a lake and find something, we want to know about it, because then that allows us to take the proper actions moving forward. If we know it's there, we're going to make sure you've got proper signage on that lake that makes people aware that zebra mussels have been found in this lake, or Eurasian water milfoil has been found in this lake. So we want people to know that if they're going to be moving a structure from this lake to another lake, they need to be aware that you might have zebra mussels or Eurasian water milfoil. No, Minnesota's got a very good reputation when it comes to aquatic invasive species. I know we hear complaints from folks saying the DNR is just not doing everything that it should. But when you compare what we're doing with other states, we are looked at with a lot of admiration from other states, especially that the state legislature has decided that invasive species is important enough to take out $10 million out of the general fund and split that up amongst the counties to let the counties decide how to use their share. Other states are very jealous of the amount of money that Minnesota has that's going toward AIS prevention. People have a real strong connection with the outdoors and with their lakes. Our identity is our lakes. And people understand that aquatic invasive species can change the way we use our lakes and the way we enjoy our lakes. So I think most people are jumping on board supporting AIS prevention activities because they see that it has the opportunity to protect our lakes for the future, the long term.
With sailboats, relative to aquatic invasive species, there's a couple of challenges. Sailboats have keels to allow them to track through the water. And that keel, all of it or a portion of it, is likely retractable. So now that keel goes up inside of the hull of the boat. So you've got some special challenges relative to inspections and relative to, clean and dry and drain, because the keel is up inside of the boat and the keel's not going to come down when it's on the trailer. So it makes inspections and the treatment of aquatic invasive species a little bit more challenging. About a decade ago, the committee started inviting AIS inspectors to be here when the sailboats arrived for the regatta. The first couple of years, the AIS inspectors were viewed as like enforcement and somewhat of a threat. But the AIS inspectors and just the education of the boating community in general, the boaters have been educated about AIS and aquatic resources. The inspectors are still here every year, but the attitude of the boating community has changed so much. The sailors that come for the regatta now, I think, would be disappointed if the AIS inspectors weren't here. And by and large, there's been so much education work done that the sailors, they know the issues. They know where to look. They know where invasive species hide. So, there's really been a change in the attitude in the sailing community. I think that's true of the boating community in general. But a lot of it's because of education and because of inspectors at places like the Leech Lake Regatta and public accesses. Hi, I'm Mitch, owner of Shores of Leech Lake Resort and Marina. We get a lot of visitors. Every day we have many boats that launch in and out of our harbor. From a business perspective, from a perspective of the resort, pristine waters is critical. We're proud of our environment here and we want to protect it, but it's also critical to our business. It's clear to us how important education is relative to the spread of aquatic invasive species. And we have seen a big difference in the customers and the people that show up here. A few years ago, people were just blindly unconcerned about aquatic invasive species. Now, when they leave, I watch them drain their boat and pull their bilge plug. And when people are done with their live bait, they ask us, where should we dispose of our live bait? These are all things that, even just a few years ago, we wouldn't have seen. And the more you understand about the environment and the resources that we have, the more you understand just how important it is to protect them. I honestly have seen what a difference education makes. I've seen differences in the behavior of our boating community.